Okay, welcome everyone to this session. My name is Kristina. I am your host for this session. We will now continue with a presentation from Penny Andersson. Penny is a CEO at Djurens Rätt. He has been involved in the animal advocacy movement since the late 1990s. He's been working with campaigns, digital communication, fundraising, and NGO management for more than 2 decades. In 2010, he entered the role as a CEO of Djurens Rätt and initiated the transformation of a slow-moving organization founded in 1882 into a more agile fighting force for the animals. In his talk, Penny will talk about his work at Djurens Rätt and will focus on a strategy that has been changing the lives for those who suffer the most in factory farms, the broiler chickens. The advocacy work towards politicians, companies, and the general public was streamlined, and the results of this can already be measured. So before I hand over to you, Penny, then just a reminder to all of our attendees, please write your questions to Penny in the live questions tab, and we will read these out in the end of the talk. And Penny will also be available for a networking session after the talk, for which we will post a link in the chat. Okay, great. So now with great pleasure, I hand over to you, Penny. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristina. Thank you for the introduction. I'll try to share my screen here and hopefully not make a fool of myself. So, yes. So first of all, I would like to thank the care organizers for this opportunity to speak, and all of you that have set aside time to listen to this. And time is one of our most valuable resources, and it is also what forms the basis for Djurens Rätt's decision to go all in on chickens almost 5 years ago. We have limited resources when it comes to time and money. Therefore, we must choose where we are able to make the greatest difference for the animals that have the greatest need for our help. Djurens Rätt is an animal rights organization, and our vision is a world where animals are respected as sentient beings, as individuals with a right to their own lives. So with that as a starting point, the choice of focus is not that difficult for us to make. In Sweden, chickens make up to 97% of all land-living animals that are slaughtered every year. And this production, together with keeping hens in cages, is basically the definition of factory farming. For some years, we've seen a slowdown and even decline in the consumption of beef and pork in Sweden. But the increase in the consumption of chicken meat seemed almost unstoppable. So to give you a bit of a background, Djurens Rätt did not start from scratch in the new millennium. We are not the new kids on the block. Djurens Rätt was founded in 1882 with the purpose to stop painful experiments on animals. During our almost 140 years of existence, this grew into a wide array of animal issues. But also a culture within Djurens Rätt was created. When we became the leading animal advocacy organization in Sweden, that culture was that we should be taking on almost every animal protection issue out there. Name any, we've been there. But during the last 3 decades, we've been leaning more and more into focusing on the areas of farm animal welfare and plant-based outreach, because that is what impacts the vast majority of all animals. But with 40,000 members and members with voting rights and 30 staff 5 years ago, there were still many different opinions on what to prioritize. So we had no real grand master plan to start with. But in 2017, we set a goal to try to stop the increase in the consumption of chicken meat, to flattening the curve, so to say. With us, we took experiences from earlier campaigns and the opportunity to add corporate outreach as a new focus area. We didn't have all the answers, but we knew that we could do better and use our resources in a more efficient way. So we established clear goals to start with. In 2018, we put a lot of time internally into a new long-term plan for Djurens Rätt, where we went from having more than 100 goals as an organization to 9. These 9 goals are largely linked to each other, which means that success in one area has effects for another. We developed a strategy plan in which we pin down how we make our priorities from now on. Some of these strategies are models more used by commercial companies than NGOs. This was in many ways a shift in mindset for our organization. But once this was done in 2020, we introduced OKRs, objectives and key results, as a common goal setting tool to set challenging, ambitious goals with measurable results. This helps us to track progress, create alignment, and encourage engagement around measurable goals. So with this in place, we were able to align the work within our 3 focus areas. And the first area is corporate outreach. We transitioned from cage-free to chicken welfare, the European Chicken Commitment in particular, when discussing with companies. We have been quite successful with our cage-free work, with 75 corporate commitments, and now only 5% of hens in Sweden that are still in cages. So we used the contacts we already had established, and the ECC work took off in 2018. This is today a fully integrated part of the organization, and it decides which pressure campaigns we do. We carry out our own campaigns nationally, as well as internationally within the Open Wing Alliance. Regarding the second focus area, the legislation area, here our political lobby team focuses on politicians at national as well as local level. At the government level, our focus is to get a ban on the cruel electrical water bath stunning procedure. At the local level, we urge politicians to set higher animal welfare requirements in public procurement. So when our tax money is used, they should be used to purchase goods with high level of animal welfare standard. The third area, public information. This is the largest area and the most visible one. And in 2018, we launched our information program, 99 millions. And this is what we're probably best known for among the public in Sweden at the moment. It is based on an investigation into the Swedish chicken industry. And the name alludes to the number of chickens raised annually in Sweden. We have since then reached all 10 million Swedes, more than once and maybe even twice with our program. We have done several extensive ad campaigns in newspapers. We've done radio commercials. We've done ads on trains, buses, train stations, billboards, in magazines. We have dedicated our yearly summer tour to this campaign, where we meet thousands of people, one-on-one at festivals, summer events, and in the streets. We have used virtual reality as a means for interaction. A huge thanks to Animal Equality for providing us the material for that. But we've also done a TV commercial with Sweden's #1 YouTuber, and of course, many thousands of online ads. We have basically taken every opportunity to criticize the chicken industry when given. And we've hammered in the message that if you want to show compassion with animals, you should keep chickens off your plate. But besides this, we have integrated chickens in our overall communication. When a generic image of animals is to be used in ads or social media posts, we use images of chickens. This is to deepen the perception, the understanding that chickens are animals. When we offer suggestions for plant-based dishes, then we primarily suggest recipes and products that replace chicken meat. So when we present ourselves, we always explain that Djurens Rätt works for the animals that are the most and suffer the worst. And this therefore leads us to the chickens. We make our decisions based on the available data. We order service conducted by third parties to understand the consumption patterns better and what the public wants companies to do when it comes to animal welfare. And then we base our corporate outreach, our lobbying campaigns and public campaigns on this data. But these are all activities, and activities are just activities. So it's, of course, the results that are interesting. So when we summarize the numbers, we see now a total of 33 ECC commitments. That is including international companies working in Sweden. And this is on the rise. We see progress at the local level. When systematic misconduct was revealed at Sweden's largest chicken slaughterhouse now in June, we directly contacted the largest counties in the country and drew their attention to this. As a result, more than 90 out of 290 municipalities chose to stop their purchases completely or temporarily from that supplier, causing significant disruption. This is Scandinavia's largest poultry producer. And we now have a review of stunning methods in the making. The Swedish government has commissioned the Swedish Board of Agriculture to review the stunning methods for slaughtering poultry, but also pigs and fishes, and propose changes. And this is to be carried out 2021. And the Swedish poultry producers themselves announced that the electrical water bath stunning system will be phased out probably before 2026. But the most interesting result is that the decline in consumption of chicken meat. When we look at the European level, according to this report from the European Union, poultry is the only meat category whose production has expanded during the pandemic, and the only one that is expected to grow between 2020 and 2030. So EU consumption of poultry meat is projected to rise 5% per capita by 2030, as consumers consider poultry a cheap, healthy, and sustainable product. Not a good future prospect for chickens, but in Sweden, the consumption has fallen from 15.8 in 2016 to 14.2 chickens per capita in 2020. That's a 10% drop in average annual consumption per capita. The biggest drop came in 2020, where 7.6 million less chickens were consumed than the year before. And the trend continues into 2021, where the first quarter of this year so far looks better than the same period last year. So when we analyze how this momentum was created, these are the factors that we think helped. Having a clear strategy, a small number of aspirational objectives, measurable results and systems to set them and do follow-ups, transparency within the organization to encourage participation and innovation, and working in parallel with corporate outreach, political lobbying, and general information to the public. All this creates positive synergies. One example, the industry gets pressured from food companies that now want ECC compliant products. And at the same time, certain practices, like the stunning methods, get scrutinized by the government. So somewhat stuck between a rock and a hard place, the industry needs to show that they are the good guys and take command over the situation. So their narrative becomes that it's themselves that are initiating the transfer to less cruel slaughtering methods. It has nothing to do with those animal rights lunatics. Well, we don't care as long as we see change happening. They can take the credit as long as change is made. But when it comes to the decline in chicken meat, we see it as a result of the long-term effort to highlight the chicken industry, to highlight it as one of the worst forms of factory farming. 4 years in a row where we have focused our public campaigns on informing about the reality of broiler chickens and promoting plant-based chicken alternatives, we see this decline. Djurens Rätt has also during this time been the only major organization that has been focusing on the chicken issue in Sweden. And each corporate pressure campaign also contributes to the goal of reducing consumption. Since we combine campaigns with welfare objectives with a message to the public that what we demand is the least we can ask for, and choosing plant-based instead of chickens is the most effective effort we as consumers can make. It takes a little more energy to handle this sometimes dual communication, but I'd say the public are no fools. They see the difference between the company in question and their own role. By having a positive message to the consumer in an inspiring tone without blaming, we also create a positive image of ourselves. And if we, who are obviously nice guys, are upset about a company, then it must be really, really bad, right? But also, another factor is, success factor is communicating progress. When results are made, communicate them. This helps you to build momentum and gain resources so you can develop your organization. Brand yourself as a winner and you will win. 5 years into this, Djurens Rätt has grown its membership by 25% to 50,000 members. And we've almost doubled the number of staff. So what worked for us? Have a clear strategy. Set aspirational objectives. Create measurable results. Communicate inspirationally about plant-based chicken alternatives. Launch powerful corporate campaigns. Single out legislative opportunities. Run public information campaigns. Do this simultaneously and communicate progress. Then gather support and then you win. Slowly, yes, but you will win. That was that. Time is of the essence at all conferences. And this was a bit of a speedy run through of 5 years of work, and I hope less than 20 minutes. If you're interested in knowing more in depth on the strategy and the tactics, please feel free to reach out to me or the Djurens Rätt team at CARE or after the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this really great talk and also really great work that you have done. We still have time for some questions from the audience as well. And first off, a question from Leo. How did you manage to get a TV commercial, and how did you manage to do it with the #1 YouTuber in the country?
That's actually a whole lecture itself to get that TV commercial. But we crowdfunded the money to buy airtime we had to tweak the TV commercial a bit to get it accepted. We could not show the worst images that we had, but it was basically crowdfunded, and that also created a lot of interest around the TV commercial before it aired. So we got some PR in before. But the number one YouTuber in Sweden is, we are very thankful for her help with this. Therese Lindgren is her name, and she's the YouTube star in Sweden. She became vegan a couple of years ago, and during the time we also helped her out with that. So we've had a good relation with her since then. She's also published a book on animal rights, which we helped out with. So it's many years of collaboration. So yes, and of course that kind of helped. She narrated it, the TV commercial, and probably more saw it in her channels than on TV. Yes.
Thank you. Alexandra would like to ask, what kind of fundraising communication is the most effective for you? In Poland, we find it quite challenging so far to leverage imagery and descriptions of chickens suffering for donations compared to pigs or foxes-centered messages.
Yeah, we experience the same. It's a challenge. I think it's very it's in our society that we value some animals more than others, but I would say consistency is the key. You have to repeat it. Foxes, like fur farming issues and other, have been on the agenda for, in my country, in Sweden, like for 40-50 years. So like everyone knows this, but how broiler chickens are produced, it's not as well known, and the numbers and what they are suffering is not that well known. So I would say you should just start, and then you should stick to, you just keep doing it, because finally you will grow the support as long as you also do campaigning and keep up the public information. I would say you have to have those going at the same time. It won't be fantastic in the start, no, but it's a it's a marathon. It's not a sprinting game. So if we are in it for the marathon, we should start communicating and fundraising about chickens ASAP.
Thank you very much. So a question from Elina. What are your tips to deliver a non-blaming message? Often meat industry is trying to brand anything that promotes plant-based diets as blaming meat eaters. Thank you for a great presentation as well.
Thank you for a great question, because that's a tough one. But I would say we have chosen the path that we are, we're showing the facts to the public, and then we ask them to make their own choice. I have to translate this in my head now. We don't say go vegan. We say you could choose plant-based. It's a choice, and in that way we're communicating like that we are on the same, that we are respecting people, that we respect their intellectual functions, that they can make rational decisions. So we're not forcing this, we're just showing. And if it's a one-on-one meeting, if a person is not receptive, we move on to the next one. We don't linger and try to debate. We just move on. There are so many people out there. So if someone is not receptive, just move along. That's the most efficient way to do it. And you could convert this into like the digital outreach as well.
Thank you. Another question, perhaps on a similar topic, but maybe you can specify here more, Penny. So a question from Gabriela. Thank you for your presentation again, Penny. How do the companies react to ECC ask from your organization when you are also promoting veganism?
Yes, that's a question we get sometimes, and I think it's a valid one, because many think, how do we combine animal welfare asks with abolishing meat consumption? But we have found that if we are very clear with companies to start with, when we meet them, we always introduce ourselves. And we talk, this is what we are. We work on this and this and this. And I would say, and I would say, sometimes these barriers that I see in some discussions within the animal advocacy movement, that we can't talk about this when we talk about that. You can't combine those. I think that's a barrier made up most of the times in our own minds, because when you sit down with a company, and you say, yeah, we're a vegan organization. We're promoting plant-based. They say. But you see how the world looks like. There are billions of animals out there. We need to make it better for them as soon as possible. Don't you agree? And they say, yes. Okay, can we find common ground here on these animal welfare asks? It's not harder than that, actually. And that also diffuses the criticism, because the Swedish Poultry Association has been very, very keen on to answering every time we are in debates. They say, you should have listened to them. They want to abolish all animal farming. Don't listen to them. And then the companies, when they hear this, they have met us, and then they know, but they are not. Who sounds like the crazy? Who sounds like the extreme person now? Okay, then it's not us. We are the rational solution-seeking organization, and they are then the industry gets to be, how to say, pictured as the polarizing force. And companies don't like disruptions. They just want business to run smoothly. So yeah, that's also a winner.
Okay, I think we can squeeze in one more question, even though there is a lot more from the audience. So a question from Denise: what should the structure of a good, clear strategy look like?
Yeah, you should have on an organizational level, you should look at a strategy that defines where you put your resources. So it's like a strategy into decision making, because the rest, like these public information campaigns and corporate outreach and legislative efforts, they are basically just tactics into pursuing those let's say larger objectives. So defining, because when you've done that and had like, this is how our organization prioritizes, you save so much time discussing what to do. And that time is getting, how to say, you can spend that into actually doing things. So and having like a system that suits your organization, but having a system where everyone can see your goals, everyone can see your objectives, like internally at least, and see the progress, or also important when you're not making progress, so that is visible for the organization, so to inspire innovation, and also to know when, okay, we need to change things because this is not working. So that creates like an atmosphere or a culture where that is how to say a good thing within the organization. It sounds a bit fluffy, I know, but yeah, I would say that's a key thing, because we're very keen on rushing to the what to do, and that's my organization have done the skipping that important part for like more than 100 years. So no shadow on anyone else. But that's what I think is the most important. Have a strategy on where we prioritize and how we make those decisions.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I think clearly it has been working for you and delivering results. So I think we can all learn something from you.